going on, guys? The Comics Kid 2099 here. Today, I want to talk to you about the television series Burn Notice. This was a 7-season series, 7 seasons in a movie, actually, and it stars Jeffrey Donovan, Gabrielle Anwar, and Bruce Campbell. And later on in the series, starting around season 4, I think, it has the secret agent from The Gifted. He is in the show. In fact, this series was created by Matt Nix, who is also the showrunner on The Gifted. And this is about a character named Michael Weston. He is a spy, and then he is burned by the CIA, which basically means he is fired, but also they don't really want him to do anything. They drop him off in Miami in the first episode, and they make his life very difficult. They don't want him leaving Miami. They don't really want him investigating why he was burned. And that's the premise of the series. He is trying to find out who burned him, why they burned him, and then he ultimately wants to try and get his life back to the way it was before he was burned. And in a way, this series kind of reminds me of The X-Files. Now, anyone who knows me knows that I absolutely hated The X-Files. I hated just about every minute of me watching that series. With that show, you start off with a pretty interesting premise. You have Fox Mulder, who is an FBI agent, and he believes that the United States government is covering up alien activity, and he believes in this alien activity, and he wants to uncover the truth. And then his partner, Dana Scully, she doesn't believe in that stuff, but she believes in Fox, sort of. And so the premise of the series, in theory, is that he is going to uncover all of this stuff and find out what's going on. But then the more that you watch that series, the more clear it becomes that they did not know what they were doing, and they were just kind of making it up as they went along, and quite often they were contradicting themselves in their own mythos that they had created along the way. And you have a very similar situation going on with Burn Notice. From the beginning, I knew that the people making the show had no idea who burned Michael or why he was burned. I knew that they didn't know that. With this series being 7 seasons, I was almost ready to bet my entire life savings that the people making this show did not know who burned Michael or why. And when you watch the entire series, I just watched the series finale last night, I still don't really know why Michael was burned. But I enjoyed the episodes, the individual episodes that don't have anything to do with the series-long arc, as opposed to The X-Files, where at the beginning I was very interested in the series-long arc, the myth arc, as Chris Carter, the creator of The X-Files, called it. I was very interested in the myth arc of X-Files, and the individual episodes, at times, I found those to be very funny and very enjoyable, but I was always more interested in the myth arc, and I wanted more of that. And then when they fumbled that so often, I came to really hate everything about The X-Files. With Burn Notice, I enjoyed the episodes that had nothing to do with the myth arc, and then when we would get more development on the myth arc, I thought, okay, the series is moving in a direction, and then they would do something to kind of halt their tracks and say, okay, we're not moving in that direction, there's more twists and turns that we have coming. And the more that you watch this show, the more clear it becomes that they had no idea what they were doing, and they were just making it up as they went along. I'm very curious if there was anyone who was watching the show as it was going, and they were very interested in finding out who burned Michael and why, because that's the stuff that I had no interest in. So whenever this series never really went anywhere with all of that, it didn't bother me as much as it did with The X-Files. I really enjoyed the character interactions here. I think all the characters here play a very unique role, and it takes a little while for some of them to kind of fall into place. Michael's mom is played by, you can see her here on the back of it. I hope you can see that. She was in, what was that show back in the 70s or 80s? It was a detective show. I cannot remember the name of it because I've never seen the show, but she is an actress from that show. She starts off a little annoying at the beginning. She seems willfully ignorant that Michael's dad, who is dead when the series begins, was very abusive, and she's constantly defending his behavior. As the series goes on, she's a little less that way. She's more willing to accept that her husband was an awful human being, but at the beginning she is a little bit difficult to see in the show, and you kind of just don't want her to be there. But all the other characters are pretty much the way that they are throughout the series. It doesn't take them that long for them to kind of become the characters that they are. With some shows, it takes a little while for characters to kind of develop into the characters that they will be throughout the rest of the series. But other than Michael's mom here, most of these characters are the way that they are throughout the whole series. I really like all the performances here. Jeffrey Donovan, I first came to know him in the 1990s, early 2000s series, The Pretender. He played Jared's brother Kyle in The Pretender. He was really good there. He was also in a TV series called Touching Evil. I remember seeing commercials for it on USA, but I never actually saw the series, so I'm curious if that was any good. But he's really good here, does some really solid acting. Bruce Campbell is a delight, as always. I enjoy seeing him here. Gabrielle Anwar, you probably know her if you ever saw any of the Librarian TV movies. She was in the second one, and I like her quite a bit. At times she can be a little abrasive, but a lot of times it's understandable where she's coming from, so that's not too bad either. Now, around season 5 is where the series kind of falls off for me, because Michael has finally run into this guy who is apparently responsible for burning Michael. He is a therapist who somehow is high up in government and nobody knows that he exists. I don't really know how all this works. A lot of times the series will just kind of sweep explanations like that under the rug, but this guy, his name is Anson, I think, and he wants to put together the organization that burned Michael, because I guess he was either in charge of the organization or he was aware of it, and then he wants to put that organization back together because at one point Michael actually put away all the people who had burned him, or so he thought. But then this guy, they are trying to capture him, and then Michael's brother is brought in, and then the guy ends up getting shot by a sniper, and the sniper also ends up killing Michael's brother. And that is the point where if I ever go back and decide to rewatch this series, I will stop as soon as Michael's brother gets killed. Now, Michael's brother, he was only in it occasionally. He wasn't a main character in the series, and it's not like I was like bawling my eyes out like, no, why'd they kill Nate? It's that after that, the series stops being the fun, enjoyable spy series that it was. It still has a lot of that spy drama that it had, but it loses a lot of the charm once Michael's brother dies. From that point on, he is going around trying to find who killed his brother, and then when he finds out who killed his brother, it's a high-ranking agent in the CIA, and then he kills that guy, and then he's on the run, and then he has to do operations for the CIA to make up for that, and if he doesn't do this special operation, then he and all of his friends are going to go in jail. And it's still okay, but the first 5 seasons is really where it's at. And I guess I should talk about the movie. There is a TV movie that's set, actually it's set before the series begins, but it came out in between seasons 4 and 5. It is called The Fall of Sam Axe. Sam Axe is the character played by Bruce Campbell, and if for some reason you have the entire series but you cannot get your hands on The Fall of Sam Axe, that's okay. You could pretty safely skip that movie. The only thing is there are a couple of characters who are introduced in that movie who will later show up in season 5, but you can more or less gather context clues in season 5. A character will show up and Sam will say, hey, I remember you from that one thing, and then you can say, okay, that's a character from The Fall of Sam Axe, let's move on. So if for whatever reason you don't have that movie or you don't want to watch that movie, you can skip it. It doesn't really have anything to do with Michael and his arc. It only has to do with a couple of episodes of season 5. But towards the end of the series, the CIA, they have Michael doing a job where he has to hunt down this organization led by a man named James. And if you ever saw the TV series Alphas, he is the actor who played Stanton Parrish in Alphas. And this was where I was really confused in this series, and I was already not enjoying the show as much as I was before Nate was killed. But at this point, the CIA wants to hunt down this guy named James, and I don't know why. I don't know what James's motives are. I don't know what he is trying to achieve, because when Michael finally infiltrates James's group and they think that he is one of them, they have him do several jobs, and basically these are the same jobs that Michael was doing before. They have him hunt down gangsters and warlords and bad people that he would have been opposed to before he infiltrated James's group. And these people, they clearly believe in something. They see themselves as heroes, but I don't really understand why they are opposed to the CIA. That's something that I didn't feel like the series ever really explained. At one point, there is this guy that James left in a mental institution, left him drugged up, and is paying to keep that guy there. And the guy tells Michael that James killed everyone in his unit and left him to die in that mental institution. I don't know why. I don't know why James killed these people. I don't know what he is going for. I don't know what his big goal is. And at the end of the series, I still don't know. But that was kind of a weak point to leave the series on. I really think this show should have either dragged out his Burn Notice storyline a little longer, because that pretty much gets wrapped up. I want to say at the end of season 4, that gets wrapped up. So it should have either kept that going for a little bit or ended with season 4. And Nate, Michael's brother, dies in the middle of season 5. But the Burn Notice stuff actually gets wrapped up in season 4, and then after that, there's a little bit more going on, and I still enjoyed it for a little while after the Burn Notice stuff was wrapped up, but really, if you wanted to just watch some pretty good stuff that is a little bit kind of dragging its heels, it doesn't really know what's going on, but it's still very enjoyable, you can just watch the first 4 seasons. But if you fall in love with these characters, you can keep watching, but then middle of season 5 is where Michael's brother dies, and that's where it stopped being very enjoyable to me. After that, that, it just kind of was meandering, and then it really didn't know what it was doing in the last season. So I enjoyed this series. It reminded me tonally, at least the first two-thirds, reminded me a lot of the TV series Leverage. If you ever saw Leverage, very similar to that, same type of drama to comedy ratio here, and in fact, the ending here is kind of sort of similar to Leverage. Hopefully that's not too big of a spoiler here, but I was getting some big Leverage vibes, especially in the last episode. So those are my thoughts on Burn Notice, just a brief little review of the whole series. I enjoyed it, but it does have some problems. So that is all that I have today. I hope that you guys liked this video, and if you did, be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I'll be back later in the week with another video. In the meantime, have a great rest of the day. Catch you later.